Many think baseball derived from a bat and ball game called rounders that was brought over by the earliest colonists to the New England states. By the time of the American Revolution, there were many versions of this game. Town ball was the most popular, and by 1800 was played nearly everywhere within New England. In September of 1845, the New York Knickerbocker Baseball Club began and had a lively interest in improving the game. Some of the things that they changed were the infield now had a diamond shape, the batter got 3 swings before they were out, and instead of throwing the ball at the runner, they would be tagged. On June 19, 1846, the Knickerbockers played against a cricket team. This was the first real baseball game. The Knickerbockers lost 23-1, but this version of the game spread. By the 1850s, New York was hooked. 1856 is known as the birth year of the evolution of baseball. A British-born music teacher, Henry Chadwick, an enthusiast cricketer, watched a game between the Knickerbockers and the New York Gothams and became enamored with the game. Chadwick launched the first baseball column in the New York Clipper. He started publishing statistics for everyone to keep track of the game and players. On December 5th of that same year, the Sunday New York Mercury newspaper referred to baseball as the national pastime. 50 baseball clubs in the New York area alone were up and running by 1858, and 3 years later there were a total of 62 clubs. The National Association of Baseball Players was formed so the clubs could keep control of their game. In the midst of all this progress began the Civil War. Many thought baseball would be lost forever, but in fact just the opposite happened. Baseball became a people's game instead of a gentleman's game. By the end of the war, baseball was the national pastime. Soldiers played it on the fields of battle and took home the game with them as they returned to their families and towns. In 1869, a former Knickerbocker, Harry Wright, assembled the first professional team, the Cincinnati Red Stockings. Most of the players on the team were from New York. The highest paid player received $1,400 for a season, which was 7 times the working man's wage. At the end of the season, the Red Stockings were 65-0, but they only had a profit of $1.39. Their next season, they were 27-0, but on June 14, 1870, they lost. They lost in extra innings, and this was the first time any game had gone to extra innings. Once this happened, the investors pulled their money from the Red Stockings, and the team later disbanded. Harry Wright moved the best of his Red Stockings to Boston with new investors. Gambling had become rampant, and people were making lots of money from throwing the games. February 2, 1876, a group of club owners started the National League of Professional Baseball Clubs to try to make things better and restore the reputation of the game. Things such as no beer, no gambling, 50 cents a ticket, and no games on Sundays were imposed in order to try to restore this reputation. In 1882, owners of the Midwestern clubs left out of the National League created the American Baseball Association. They had 25-cent games. They did play games on Sundays, and beer and liquor were served. People referred to this league as the Whiskey and Beer League. Because people now had a choice between the two leagues, baseball flourished. Stadiums began to be built. Albert Goodwill Spaulding was a pitcher in the 1870s. In 1876, he stopped pitching and went to Chicago. At age 27, he became a baseball manufacturer, then bats, then uniforms. He created the largest sporting goods manufacturer in the country. In the 1890s, the Boston Beaneaters and the Baltimore Orioles ruled baseball, and they played dirty. Whatever it took to win, they did it. The Orioles won 3 National League pennants, and Boston won 5 within the 1890s. Because of this domination, attendance at games dwindled. People didn't want to see their teams lose against the Orioles or Boston. The game of baseball was now in financial trouble. Baseball had grown from a children's game to a brawling pastime for big city workers to now an industry. But the greed of the owners threatened to destroy all they had built. It would depend on the next generation of players to rescue the national pastime.